Hello and welcome to CFESA's podcast. I am your president. My name is Kirby Mallon, and today we have with us Wayne Stoutner and Patrick Duffy. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, Kirby. How are you?
Doing well, Kirby. How are things?
I'm doing good. Same day, Sunday, different thing going on here at Elmer Schultz.
Nice.
But this series of podcasts are highlighting CFESA certified companies and their owners, and we want to get to know our fellow CFESA members. So this series of podcasts are less about financials and profitability and all that kind of stuff, and more about who you guys are and how you got into this industry. I know you guys for a long time. I've known you, Patrick, and Wayne, you for a long time. You're both heavily involved with CFESA, always have been. Very incredible supporters of CFESA, so thank you for that. First, I guess, Patrick, I ask you first. Um, where were you born, Patrick?
I was born in Washington Mills, New York, which is about a mile from where my office is today, right down the road.
Wayne, how about you? Where were you born?
I was born in Gloversville, New York, which is about 30 miles or so east of where Patrick was born.
So we're batting 100 here. Just about everybody in my podcast so far have all been born relatively where they're at right now. There's literally no one who's been like, oh, I was born in California and ended up here. It's interesting that most people kind of just stay where they were born. Anyways, so you guys both owned your own separate companies at some point in time. Patrick, you owned Duffy's in the beginning there.
Duffy's
Um,
Equipment Services. Yep.
okay, and at what age did you go into the business?
I started when I was 13 years old, carrying my cousin's toolbox. Paul Tocatli, former CFESA president, God rest his soul. I used to spend summers at his house, living with him before he was even married to his wife Patty, and then after, all during and after when all his kids were born, I'd spend summers and school vacations at their house, riding around with Paul, carrying a toolbox. He did the same for my dad when he was 12, so it became a generational thing. And then his boys rode with me, my son rode with them, and on it went. So I started at a young age, and that's all I ever wanted to do was what I'm doing today.
That's interesting. God bless his soul, as you said. His toolbox. That's interesting. At his funeral, there was a lot of focus on his actual toolbox.
Yeah,
Was
that was
that the
great.
was that the actual toolbox, or was there many
No,
versions of
oh
that
no,
toolbox?
that was his toolbox. Yep. And while it wasn't his original toolbox that I was carrying when I was 13, it's the same brand and same size. It was his toolbox when he passed. Yeah, I've got a lot of miles, and one of my arms is longer than the other, so I've got that.
And Patrick, was that your first? What was your first job? Did you have a job before that?
I, I wouldn't call it a job, but when I was a kid, so the only office at the time was right behind my parents' house here in Sequoia, next door to where I live right now. Um, And when I was a kid, the technicians would bring the parts back that they changed out and they'd put them in a big box. And whenever I could after school, I'd go down and take the parts apart to see how they came apart, see how to get better at using tools and separate out the copper and the brass. And I would take those back to the recycle bin. So I learned how thermostats come apart and all of those valves and things, strip them all down. When I was not tall enough to reach the workbench, I had to have a step stool to stand on to reach the vise that I could take them apart. So aside from that, it was carrying Paul's toolbox and just being a gopher for whatever they needed.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Wayne, let me switch over to you for a second. So you were born in New York, and somehow you got involved with appliance installation and service, also known as AIS. How did that all happen?
Well, my story is not as glorious as Patrick's is. I when I graduated high school, I went in the Army for 4 years. I got out and I went to college at University of Buffalo. And when I graduated from college, I didn't have a job yet, and I was still delivering pizzas to pay my bills, and I was working for Domino's Pizza there in Buffalo. And in walks Paul Glowacki, who was our partner before we sold. But in walks Paul Glowacki, and he's wearing a tie and he's carrying a multimeter, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? I thought you were an accounting major. What are you doing delivering pizzas still?" And I go, "Well, what are you doing trying to fix a pizza oven? You were an accounting major." Well, he was. It turns out that he was a service manager for AIS, and oops, sorry about that. And this was before we bought it, but he was a service manager for AIS, and he asked me if I'd like a job as the assistant service manager, and I interviewed with the former owner Ron Canestro, for also a past CFESA president, and I interviewed with him for 3 months, and I got the job starting as assistant service manager.
Oh, that's awesome. And how long ago was that?
That was in 1992, 30 years ago.
Wow, how about that? That's cool. The three of us and many CFESA members have been in the industry for so long and have so many generations amongst each other. So that's excellent. Okay, so you guys had your own companies. There was Duffy's and there was AIS. You guys were competitors. Were you competitors?
There were actually three companies. There's also ECS, which Wayne owned, which is an installation company. Duffy's didn't really compete with ECS. We just didn't do installs on that level. But we've been competitors with AIS, or had been competitors with AIS for ever. I mean, my dad and Ron Canestro were not friendly neighbors, but when Wayne and Paul and I and myself and my Paul took over, we were much more friendly competitors with Wayne and Paul. We got along. Paul and Wayne rode to CFESA meetings together when they were on the board together as competitors. It doesn't get much more friendly competition than that. What made it work, I think, was that AIS primarily focused on the cold side, and Duffy's focused on the hot side altogether. We didn't do any cold at all, so it was competition, but there were enough customers for all of us to be happy.
And oddly enough, Patrick and I met, I don't know, maybe 25 years ago when we were both branch managers in Rochester, New York office. He was the branch manager for his Rochester office. I was a branch manager for my Rochester, New York office. And that's sort of when we met. So we grew up together in this industry, although he started a little before I did, obviously.
How about that? That's excellent. So it's the term. There's play. We all can play in the sandbox, right? There's plenty of customers.
Mm-hmm.
And you did the hot side, no cold side, just like Elmer Schultz did 30 years ago or 20 years ago. We did not do any refrigeration. So at one point, did you start doing refrigeration, Patrick?
It was at the point where we merged with AIS and ECS. We had toyed with it. Paul and I had thought about it for a long time. At the time we had 7 branches in New York, and we were just of the mindset if we did something in one, we would do it in all. And to flip a switch and do refrigeration in 7 branches at once, when it wasn't something that Paul and I knew, we thought was just too daunting. So when the opportunity arose to merge with ECS and AIS, it just seemed like the perfect marriage because all three of us complemented each other, all three of the businesses. We could support the customers cradle to grave now and anything they need. It was just a great fit.
That's awesome. We mentioned CFESA a couple times, and I said initially that you guys have been a long time, very involved with CFESA over the years. Patrick, I'll ask you first. What was your first involvement with CFESA, and what was your experience with the first 1 or 2 CFESA meetings, and then at one point did you really get more involved with CFESA?
The earliest I can remember, the CFESA meetings used to be in conjunction with the NRA show in Chicago every year. They had their spring conference in Chicago, and I remember going out with my parents to one of those conferences. So it was I think just a 1 or maybe a 2-day conference. I remember being very impressed with how many people were there, and also very comfortable with the kind of people that were there, if you will. There were many service people who were also business people, so they were kind of talked our talk and walked our walk. So I felt like I was amongst friends there, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to Chicago, and I enjoyed the show itself, walking around the show. That was pretty cool. My first conference that I went to outside of Chicago was Monterey, California, and that was years later, and it was without my parents. I also enjoyed that conference, and that's when I really got involved myself and got on the membership services committee and really just started to get a lot more out of the meetings because I couldn't just assume that my parents or Paul or whomever was going to take notes, and I just had a good time out there. I was there for a reason, and I paid a lot more attention, and I was hooked. I'm a big supporter of CFESA, still am.
Well, thank you for that. And that's absolutely true. Long time, Wayne. Along with you, you've been involved for a long time with CFESA. You've been on the board the same time that I've been on the board for a long, long time. Tell the association how you got into CFESA and what your interactions were.
Well, I can't remember exactly when, but at the time it was had to been in the mid 1990s when Ron Canestro, who was my boss at the time, former owner of AIS, he was the president of CFESA, and he brought his key people there. And at the time, I was the Rochester branch manager, so it would have had to have been there. And it was interesting. I met a lot of because he was the president right away. I met a lot of what I would call the industry players, right? I was able to meet through him being the president, being able to meet a lot of people very quickly. So I was immersed, and my networking developed really fast in CFESA. So I really enjoyed it a lot. And just like Patrick said, I enjoyed the people. I over the years, everybody I've encountered has been great. I can't think about any really negative encounters at all at any of the conferences with people. It's been a wonderful experience. And then when we purchased AIS in 2002, we got involved right away and made sure that we continue to be a member. And I got involved on the board in somewhere in the 3 or 4 years after that.
Hmm. Okay, and then you were on the board for gosh, I'm gonna have to say at least 10 years, correct?
Yeah, I think 2006. In fact, I was on the board, and Patrick mentioned earlier that I was served on the board with Paul Tucali. I actually served on the board with Patrick also. He was
Right.
on the board my first year. I remember very well. So he was on the board my first year. Then a few years passed, and Paul Tucali came on the board, and I've been on the board for a long time. I was treasurer, I think, for 10 or 12 years. So I've been on the board a long,
Yeah,
long time. Been through a lot. I've seen a lot, and I enjoyed every bit of it.
yeah.
Wayne was one of the guys that we caught with the everybody wears a tie to the CFESA meetings joke. I don't know if
Yeah,
you remember that,
they
but
hazed me.
all the newbies, we used to tell them that oh my God, you dress up, it's a really big deal. This is quite an honor to be on the CFESA board. And we all wear ties and jackets. And of course, he was amongst others who show up the first time with a tie and a jacket, and we're all in t-shirts and jeans and flip flops. And
You're
we
right.
got him.
They got me, and I never got to pay them back either. Yeah,
Not yet, right?
Yeah. Well, they got me too. First time I got on the board, and funny story. Nick Cribb, who's one of the two vice presidents right now, we had a board of directors meeting down in Costa Rica, and I had called Nick and said, "Look, just to let this is high end. You got to wear a suit. You got to wear a tie, a nice shirt, can't be wrinkled." I mean, really went to a T. So, socks need to match your belt. And don't you know, he shows up in Costa Rica, and it's 100 degrees, and I walk saw him at the airport, and I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and he is dressed to a T, sweating his ass off. And he looks at me, he's like, "Oh man." So
but I think it even gets a little bit worse because he didn't pack any casual clothes hardly at all. So we
Oh,
were there
nice.
the 4 days or whatever it was, and he had no casual clothes to wear, and we're all walking around in shorts and t-shirts.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that was funny. I think he went looking for shorts and couldn't find any. I think he ended up
Right.
taking a pair of pants and cutting them into shorts. But well, that's that goes to show you how much interaction there is amongst CFESA members and how much you can learn from each other over the years. I mean, yes, there's meetings and there's speakers which are fantastic, but I think personally, the one of the incredible benefits of attending CFESA meetings is the peer to peer interaction that you have, and many questions asked. Wayne, do you buy your trucks or do you lease your trucks? Patrick, where do you buy your tires from? I mean, all these kind of crazy issues. Not to say about vans, but insurance and training and technicians and that's where you share the knowledge. And I don't know of many other associations that the membership is so forward thinking and sharing amongst each other. I haven't been in any other industries, so I couldn't really tell you, but I think it's quite unique personally.
Yeah,
For
you said
for sure.
earlier, that there's enough for room for everybody in the sandbox, and it was certainly that way with New York State. But I think CFESA is that way as well. Nobody's afraid to give you a hand and help you over whatever you're going through. They've either been through it themselves or they're going to go through it, and that attitude of there's enough for all of us, let's help each other get better, and then we all get better together. That is Cefesa, and you're right, that is the big benefit of Cefesa.
And I think people need to just try to build the relationships, because over the years, things where there've been dozens and dozens of times where I've had dealers reach out, hey, who can do an install for me in Philadelphia, or who can do one in Port St. Lucie, Florida, and having all the context through Suffice. Hey, call Kirby Mallon up in Philly, or call Nathan down in Port St. Lucie, Florida, and or we're working on a project where maybe hey, this particular restaurant's building a huge kitchen and they want an install price, and I can call around and say, hey, Kirby, have you ever done one of those? Give me a little insight. There's a lot of communication that goes back and forth that you know you're going to find talking with other fellow members of FESA, and you can get way ahead in the game by just reaching out to friends that you've made.
Absolutely, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Being that you're kind of like the installation expert, I've sent more than one quote to you saying, Wayne, what do you think about this? And you've um, lended me your expertise and helped me through quoting those jobs so they're
Mm-hmm.
profitable. So I do appreciate that. All right. The two of you guys merged your companies. You did very well. You guys have some more free time now, I suspect. What are your current titles? Just so the membership knows.
I'm
Patrick,
the I'm the president of Duffy's AIS.
and Wayne.
Well, I have multiple roles. I'm chairman of Duffy's AIS, which is strictly an advisory role. Basically I'm available for Patrick to reach out to me, or any of the employees to be able to reach out to me. But my along with being chairman of Duffy's AIS, being in that advisory position, I'm also a vice president of field service operations for PT Holdings Group.
Excellent, excellent. So you would be eligible to run to be on the board. Is that accurate?
I believe so.
hmm You have anything to announce today at all, Wayne?
Well, I intend to hopefully finish out my long career with the CFESA Board of Directors by running for president this fall. So
Wow.
I feel that I'm ready. I feel I have the proper amount of time that it requires, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go. So yes, I'll be running in the fall, and hopefully I can have your vote.
Well, there's news right there on the President's podcast. You've heard it first, right there. That's excellent news, Wayne. I'm glad to hear that. Um, the I would agree 100% that your knowledge in this industry is um, vast, and you've been the treasurer for a very long time, and you know all the ins and outs of CFESA. So I wish you luck with your bid to become president in
Th-
September.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Um, okay, let's close this out by asking some basic questions here, Patrick. I see a gun above your head. It looks really old. Do you shoot old guns or something? What do you do for fun?
Well, shooting guns is one of the things I do for fun. That is a flintlock 50 caliber musket, and I do shoot it, and I shoot lots of guns. I'm a big deer hunter, and my wife goes to our hunting camp with me, Christy, and she enjoys it as much as I do, just being in the woods. Aside from hunting, our other big passion is riding our motorcycle cross country or cross the street, doesn't really matter as long as we're on it. We'll be riding to NRA next week, and we're looking forward to that. Spring has finally sprung here, so we really enjoy being outdoors, whether it's in the woods or on the bike. So those are our two big passions.
That's awesome, awesome. Wayne, what do you do for fun when you're not working?
Well, primarily, I try to do a little fishing. I try to play a little bit of golf, hang out with friends and family. I'm spending most of my time here in Southwest Florida now, so pretty much can fish year round and do quite a bit of that. And I've got some family around here, and I've got a lot of friends around here, so I keep very very busy when I have time to. When I have some free time, I get out and enjoy the outdoors.
I seem to see a picture. I think it was just yesterday of a stone crab claw that looked to be this big. Is that
Wow.
was
Yeah,
that
that
was that fake news?
No, that was a real deal. I have several stone crab traps out, and I season runs from about October until May 1st. So I had to pull the traps for the final time, and and I pulled the traps for the final time, and it was the largest stone crab claw I've ever seen. I've never seen one in a store that big. It was unbelievable,
Wow.
and the price of those things, those ultra jumbo crab claws, it was probably a $50 or $60 claw right there. It was pretty cool.
How'd it taste?
It was excellent. In fact, I only ate one. You know, Kirby, you eat usually a half a dozen of those anytime, right? For an
Yeah,
appetizer. I
yeah.
ate that one and I was like, I'm done. I'm full. I can't eat
Wow.
anymore. Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. So, um, I guess quick question, Patrick, red or white wine?
Red.
Uh, Wayne,
Red.
pizza, red or white?
Oh, I like them both, honestly. Thin crust, New York style, but I like them both.
No, absolutely red. Can't stand white pizza.
Okay, got it. Toilet paper, over or under, Patrick?
I pay absolutely no attention to whichever direction it goes. As long as
Okay.
it's not empty, I'm happy.
Yeah. Over 100%. No questions
Yes,
asked.
yeah. Dan Dobler even sent me there's a an official way that the toilet paper should be mounted, and it is over. Just so you know. Well, I wanted to thank both of you guys, Patrick Duffy, Wayne Stoutner, for your time today. Thank you for your longtime support of CFESA, and look forward to seeing you guys at NRA next week.
Yes, I'll see you soon. Thanks, Kirby.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Kirby. Have a great day.
Okay, you guys too. Thank you.